Have you ever felt that strange sensation of walking through your own neighborhood and suddenly not recognizing anything around you? If you felt this, you're not alone, and you're definitely not crazy. There are places in this world that simply shouldn't exist, and today I'm going to tell you a story that will make you rethink everything you believe about reality. If you're ready to discover the most disturbing secrets about impossible places, hit that like button and subscribe, because this journey will change your perception of reality forever. It started 3 months ago when I moved into a quiet suburban home in Ohio. For 2 weeks, everything was normal, until one Tuesday morning I woke up to children laughing behind my house. I walked to the back fence and saw through a gap what looked like a street that definitely wasn't there before. A perfectly paved road with sidewalks, street lamps, and 1950-style houses lining both sides. According to every official record, there was nothing behind my house except an empty city lot, but I could see the street with my own eyes. That evening, I slipped through the loose fence boards and found myself on Maple Grove Lane. The houses were beautiful, but unsettling, too perfect, like movie sets. Windows reflected scenes that didn't match reality, showing children playing in empty yards and old men sitting on furniture that wasn't there. Most disturbing were the mailboxes with names I recognized but slightly wrong. The Johnsons instead of the Johnstons from my real neighborhood. The Martinez family instead of the Martinezes. But the mailbox that made my blood run cold read the Hendersons in front of a pale yellow house with green shutters. My last name is Henderson. I live alone and definitely don't live in a yellow house. As I stared at it, the front door opened and a woman in her 50s stepped out, wearing a floral dress with gray hair in a neat bun. She looked exactly like what my mother would have looked like if she had lived to 50, which she didn't. "There you are," she said, with a warm smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We've been waiting for you to come home. Dinner's getting cold." She spoke as if she knew me, as if I belonged there. I tried to tell her there had been some mistake, but every word seemed to get swallowed by the air. She just kept smiling and gesturing for me to come inside, and I found myself walking up the path against my will. Stop for a second. How many times have you experienced something similar and kept it to yourself, afraid that no one would believe you? Comment below writing, "I've lived something similar and kept it to myself." You don't need to share details, but leave that phrase there. Other people will read it and realize they're not alone. The inside of the house was exactly like my childhood home, down to the faded rose wallpaper and creaky third step. But the photographs on the mantle showed me at events I never experienced, graduations I never attended, a wedding where I was the groom though I've never married, holding children who looked like mine but whom I'd never seen. The woman moved around the kitchen with decades of familiarity, setting out plates for dinner that smelled exactly like my real mother's pot roast. As we ate, she asked about people and events from a life I'd never lived. She asked about my wife Sarah, my son Tommy's soccer game, my promotion at the firm. With each question, I felt my real memories slipping away, replaced by false ones that felt increasingly real. I could almost remember Sarah's laugh, could almost picture Tommy in the backyard I knew I'd never owned. After dinner, I stepped outside to find Maple Grove Lane lit by vintage lamps, casting everything in warm golden light. Other houses showed signs of life, families moving in slow, deliberate patterns like over-rehearsed actors. The residents waved and called out greetings as if they'd known me forever. "Good evening, Henderson," called out a man who looked like my real neighbor but older, wearing clothes from decades past. I tried to find the gap in the fence, but no matter which direction I walked, the street continued in an endless loop. Every house was a variation of homes from my real neighborhood with slightly altered names. The yellow house with my name on the mailbox was always in my peripheral vision, and the woman who claimed to be my mother was always visible through the front window with that same unsettling smile. Eventually, exhaustion set in, and I found myself back at the yellow house. The woman opened the door before I could knock. Sarah called. "She's running late from book club, but she'll be home soon. Why don't you wait in the living room?" Despite every rational thought screaming this was impossible, I found myself walking through the door again. If this story is affecting you, then you need to be here for the next ones too. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because each new video brings a new piece of this puzzle about impossible places. I must have fallen asleep because I woke up being gently shaken by someone with a familiar touch. I opened my eyes to see the woman with dark hair from the photographs, the one my borrowed memories told me was Sarah, my wife. She was beautiful, with kind eyes and a smile that made me feel home. "Hey, sleepyhead," she said softly. "How was your day?" Even though I knew I'd never met this woman, I found myself smiling and pulling her down for a kiss that felt like coming home. That night, I lay beside Sarah in a room I somehow knew was ours. The walls were painted blue that I remembered choosing, though I couldn't remember choosing it. Sarah slept peacefully, murmuring about our honeymoon to mountains I could almost remember visiting. I stayed awake, trying to hold on to my real memories, but they slipped away, replaced by memories of growing up in this house, meeting Sarah at 22, building this impossible life. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my real house. For a moment, I was completely disoriented. I rushed to the back fence, but there was nothing except an empty field. No street, no houses, no Maple Grove Lane. I spent the day convincing myself it had been an extremely vivid dream, researching realistic dreams and false memories, until I almost believed none of it had happened. But that night, getting ready for bed, I found something in my jacket pocket that shouldn't have been there. A folded piece of paper with handwriting I recognized, though I'd never seen it. Sarah's handwriting. "We'll be waiting for you whenever you're ready to come home. Love always, S." At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, though she'd been dead 15 years, "The door is always open, honey. You know where to find us." I looked out my back window and saw the warm glow of street lamps shining through the gap in the fence, illuminating a street that wasn't there during the day but existed in darkness. I could hear faint sounds of life, children's laughter, adult conversation, a neighborhood settling in for the night. Even though every rational part of my mind screamed it was impossible, I found myself putting on my shoes and walking toward the back door. Because here's the thing about impossible places. Sometimes they're more real than the real world. Sometimes they're exactly where you need to be. Sometimes the life you never lived is the life you were meant to have. And sometimes coming home means going to a place you've never been. I'm standing at my back door now, and I can see Sarah waiting under the street lamp, smiling that smile that makes everything right. My mother is on the porch of the yellow house, waving for me to come home. I know that if I step through that fence, I might never find my way back to this reality. But the life waiting on that impossible street feels more real than anything I've experienced. So I'm going to open this door, walk through that gap, and go home. To a place that doesn't exist, to people who might not be real, to a life that never happened but feels like the only life I've ever wanted. If you've made it this far, if this story has resonated with something deep inside you, then you understand that sometimes the impossible is the only thing that makes sense. Hit that like button if this affected you, and subscribe because there are more impossible places waiting to be discovered. The streetlights are calling, and I can hear Sarah's voice telling me dinner is ready. I can smell my mother's cooking and see the warm glow of home waiting beyond the fence. So I'm going now, back to Maple Grove Lane, back to the life that never was but always should have been.